Well, a very good evening, dear friends. Thanks once again for joining me, Will Todd, for another presentation discussion about my music. I need to turn down the volume on that. Otherwise I hear myself lots of times. Welcome. Thanks for joining me. If you're returning, big thank you. If you're new to this is the fourth and penultimate in a 5-part series, and the final instalment is in May. Tonight then, I'm looking at Passion music, commissioned for the singers at St Martin in the Fields and premiered there in Passion Week 2018. And I'm delighted that inspirational vocalist Shanika Simon has made some contributions to the presentation. Oh my God! Why? Just have to shut him down. There's a computer like shouting at me over there. It's all part of the live experience, though, isn't it? That we value, we treasure this. We treasure this. This is what we miss through not having live theatre and live performances at the moment. These wonderful, unscripted moments when things go strange. Shanika, yes, and she has very kindly made some contributions to the presentation, and I worked very closely with her on the gospel part, solo part. And she performed in the premiere at St Martin's and also on the recording with St Martin's Voices and the Will Todd Ensemble. I'm also very grateful to Chris Muntz and the Cantorite Kansas City, who performed the US premiere in 2019 at the ACDA National Conference, and also to the publishers, Oxford University Press. So, as has happened before, we'll go into a kind of 25-minute presentation, and I'll play sort of extracts and say things about the different movements. And after that, I would love to answer any questions that you have, either about Passion music, or they might be about something completely different, not even about my music. I shall endeavour to answer these questions. So add your questions to the chat anytime, either on the YouTube chat or the Facebook chat. It's quite helpful if you write question in capitals, and that kind of helps me to see it. So we'll have a look at this now, and I shall see you all again shortly. I'm looking at a work called Passion Music, which was commissioned for the choirs at St Martin in the Fields in Trafalgar Square in London, and was premiered by their choirs with the Will Todd Ensemble and vocalist Shanika Simon in Easter 2018. So this is a work which takes as its starting point the Passion story, but perhaps unlike some Passion settings which have set specific sections from the Gospels telling the Passion story, this setting has drawn on texts around the Passion story, including some texts of my own, to create the atmosphere of the Passion. It roughly follows a line of before the crucifixion, and after the crucifixion. I have memories of Easter time from when I was singing in a church choir when I was a youngster, and the Easter period, of course, was very busy for us in terms of music. And one of the things that we did in our parish church was sing a Passion setting on Good Friday. This was mainly a plain song setting, so the Passion was sung by the priest and other singers in plain song, and then there were choruses, short choruses in harmony that the choir would sing. And I always found this a very moving and exciting experience musically. It got me into the concept of music happening around the story of the Passion. Now, there are many phenomenal settings of the Passion, and I think probably if we're involved in Western choral music, we'll probably quickly think of the Bach Passions. Now, in his settings, what we have is text from the Gospels, sung and musicalised by the composer, and then song sequences, which are the choruses and the chorales sung by the choir. And I decided when I was thinking about creating music around Passiontide that I didn't want to set the story in such a formal way. Partly because it's been done a lot, very, very effectively. I mean, that of itself wouldn't put me off. Normally, I've set the Mass, of course, and that's been set many, many, many times. But I just felt, I think, I wanted a work with a slightly looser framework. So the piece has ended up as a 9-movement selection. The first movement sets the text, "Greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friend." And it starts off with the choir and then builds up towards the soloist. So it's based around this riff.
Enjoyed the process because obviously I had the notation on paper, but also singing it over and over again, then the patterns on the paper, it kind of becomes muscle memory, and I just have to just get it in me, you know. But once I had it in, then I had more room to explore where I would take it within my tradition. Like on the you know what I mean? Like where it goes, I could deviate a bit and then come back.
There There's a green hill far away, without a city wall.
I've chosen this text because it sets up a picture of the whole story of the crucifixion, but it also talks about us within that story, us, the we, the people sharing the story. Because the words go, there is a green hill far away without a city wall where the dear Lord was crucified who died to save us all. We may not know, we cannot tell what pain he had to bear, but we believe. It was for us he hung and suffered there. And that phrase where we get to the we believe, so it's, but we believe, and the chorus come in there on we believe, and the soloist is improvising over the top of that. We believe, we believe. Again, it gets big. We believe. The third movement is a setting of I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. This is the words of Jesus on Maundy Thursday. And this is set just for the choir. It's the first movement which doesn't have the soloist in it. And it's a pretty energetic movement, making use of a 7/8 at the start. The solo singer has notated material, but we're expecting, a bit like in Mass in Blue, we're expecting the soloist to bring their own personality and timbres to it. And one of the things that I worked on with Shanika when we first worked on the piece was developing the songs in such a way that she felt she had the space in which to do that. So, like Mass in Blue, there is a written part, but we might expect the soloist to weave around that and kind of make their own textures work, and that would be fantastic.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my
tension thing of, okay, he's telling me be free with it, but I'm also trying, there's that thin line, the freedom here, and then there's notes here. And I don't want to go too far away from what you intended. But I think by you just encouraging me to just sing it as you would sing it, kind of gave me the confidence to maybe stretch it a bit and probably put my own spin or I wouldn't say genre or feel from my tradition. Then I was able to put that on there.
When I first worked on this song with Shanika, it was a bit higher in key. It was a tone higher in F major, and working on it with her and encouraging her to sort of embellish it and sing it in as it might be sung as a gospel ballad. We found that bringing it down a tone for her voice was wonderful, and it kind of unlocked all sorts of stuff. And I remember the moment when we were rehearsing where I sort of tried to encourage her. I said, just sing it the way you want to sing it. She was being very good and sort of following the exact notes that I'd written. But I said, I just want you to kind of pull this around a bit. So she did that. And the moment she did that, I was saying, yes, that is exactly what we need, because the idea of using that soloist is that you get an authentic sound of that tradition, and the passion, of course, by which I mean the emotive passion that comes with that. So she sings it absolutely wonderfully.
For me, especially, music brings about pictures or colours, and I think depending on where I am in a song, if there's a word there that I do embellish, it might even be inspired by the colours that come forth from the music that you've written, the accompaniment, or it could be the colours that the choir produce by their harmonies and the way that you have them coming in here and sopranos stop there and alto come out and then they come in, and it just creates something beautiful. And then I think, oh, I could sit right in there. Yeah.
Fifth movement, again, just for choir, is a short version of the Stabat Mater, just 3 verses from the Stabat Mater. And of course, this is the song of Mary at the cross, Mary, the mother of Jesus, at the cross, and her sorrow. It's the only section of the Passion which is not in English. So I'm using the original Latin version, Stabat Mater dolorosa, juxta crucem lacrimosa, and it juxtaposes a kind of shimmering 8-part a cappella sound with a ballad, just simple jazz ballad feel. So you've got these very close harmonies at the start. So in the sixth movement, I've done a version of the 7 last words from the cross. So these are a traditional set of sayings, the last 7 sayings of Jesus. Jesus in the final chords. She sings, "Hear the precious words that my Saviour said before the sky went black."
Before the sky went black.
Tam, the percussion instrument, is left ringing on at the end of that movement. Out of which we hear the theme that we heard at the very start of the piece. And then a soft chorale. My Lord is gone away, my Lord is gone away, my Lord is gone away, and I have no place to go. So this is sort of a moment of stillness, a moment of regret. Is gone away. My Lord is gone away. My Lord is gone away. And I have no place to go. Then I've set the Elizabeth Fry words, "Do not stand at my grave and weep." Of course, when we deal with the Passion story, we're not just dealing with the death of Jesus Christ. I think we bring into it textures of our own experiences of death, of the loss of loved ones. There's a sense of hope in these words. So what it's saying is that at this point of great sadness, at the point of a death, it's the dead person speaking to us, giving us comfort and saying, I don't weep. Remember me in these different things. Remember me. Do not stand at my grave and 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 do not stand at my grave. Do not stand at my grave and do not stand at my grave. Do not stand at my grave and do not stand at my grave and do not stand at my grave and do
Energy is a real thing for me. It's really important. I don't want to be the person that is taking it from everybody. I want to be adding to it, and especially to such a great body of work that you have produced. Like, I want it to be good. I want it to be banging. I don't want to make it a flop.
huge thanks to Shanika for interviewing and giving her comments on the piece, which was so interesting. And I had such an amazing time, as I say, developing some of the sound worlds with her, both kind of in the composition period of things, but also during the kind of performances, you know, developing it as we rehearsed along and kind of finding bits that we could embellish. So nice to hear from you, Matt Moore. Big hello to you. We did a performance, didn't we, in Newcastle with Voices of Hope a few years ago, which was absolutely fantastic. And I think we're hoping to do another one with Voices of Hope next year, when we can get back to performing. And you said, you know, you really enjoyed the movement, We Believe. Funnily enough, I remember sort of getting to that moment. I compose at the piano, as I think I've explained on a number of occasions, and I was kind of singing or creating that ballad music at the start, and it just got to the "and we believe" there, and the rhythm. I kind of found this rhythm, and I one of those nice composer moments where I was able to sort of just go, yes, that's going to work, and that's the best thing when you're composing and writing. I think when things kind of become clear. So good to see you, and hi to everyone in Newcastle. Beverly as well, nice to hear from you. You're in Wimbledon Choral Society, and yes, I love talking to the choir and can't wait for you guys to have a go at this piece. And hopefully I can either come along and play, or definitely come along and hear you, because I know you always do fantastic concerts. We've got some questions as well. Nigel, you're asking, did I get all the words together before starting to compose? And how long did it take to compose the music? No, I didn't get all the texts ready beforehand, and I'll tell you why. Because I didn't quite know that I was creating a Passion setting or music around the Passion. This was an idea that I'd had for some time, and I'd spoken to a number of colleagues about it, and I suppose I started to experiment. I started to find texts that I like, and I started to write melodies that went with them. And I got to a point where I'd done the Love Unknown setting, the Seven Last Words, and the I Believe section. And I think then I thought there seems to be a shape developing here. And then I sort of began to think how the whole structure of the piece might work. So, you know, it was quite organic, really. Starting with those texts, then I thought, well, I'll use the greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friend, because it's got this sort of very again an overarching theme. Andrew Eris suggested using the I Give You a New Commandment third movement to sort of fill in that bit of the Passion progression, if you like. Interestingly, the a cappella movement, My Lord Is Gone Away, was written very late in the day. And what happened was we did a workshop at St Martin's, and Shanika was there, and we had not the full band, but we had the trio, piano, bass, drums playing, and the choir was there. And at that time it was 8 movements, and that movement didn't exist. So it went straight from the end of the Seven Last Words of the Cross into Do Not Stand at My Grave. And when we ran it in the afternoon, I remember having a really strong sense that the music and the energy of the piece was moving too quickly from this moment of, you know, the death, through to somehow something redemptive or resurrection-like, healing. And it needed a moment of reflection, and that movement was added between the workshop and the premiere, you know, which was a few weeks. But it was quite easy to write that because I sort of knew exactly what it needed to be. It needed to be this very reflective, reverent chorale, really, for the choir to sing. In terms of how long it took to write, this is one of those works that was refreshingly quick to write. I mean, on and off, I guess I spent a couple of months working on the compositions and the arrangements. It was good to have deadlines. I mean, it's always good to have deadlines, I think, when you're writing. And so I kind of I wrote it in bits and pieces. I did a section in the Easter before the premiere, and then I think and then I worked with Shanika on some fragments during the autumn period to kind of develop some of the songs that way. And then sort of around shortly before Christmas, I sort of got everything finalised. And we did a workshop, as I say, in I think it was February at St Martin's, and so there were some changes from there. So thanks for that question, Niels Peterson. How lovely to hear from you. Big hello to you, and great that you can join us. Ralph, you're asking a question. What's my favourite passion setting not composed by me? Well, as I explained, I mean, I don't quite think of this as a passion setting as such, hence its title. I think we did talk of doing it with readings, and in fact we were due to perform it with liturgical readings inserted last Passion Tide, so 2020, but of course that fell victim to the pandemic, so that never happened. Hopefully we can resurrect that idea at some point. The Bach Passions are wonderful, and I remember doing the St John Passion with Northern Pride Classica and the wonderful Nick Gleed up in Newcastle when we were young. I'm not sure if you sang on that one or maybe you played, I can't quite remember, but that was a wonderful experience to have as a teenager, not, you know, because when you perform pieces you get to see them from the inside, and that was fantastic. So that's always had a strong sort of place in my heart. Bob Chilcott's Passion is a gorgeous, gorgeous piece, and I recommend anybody who doesn't know Bob's Passion, which the recording I've got is from Wells Cathedral, and it's a lovely, lovely setting with lots of colours, lots of drama. Some beautiful hymns where he's taken pre-existing words and put new tunes to them, and it's a setting I listen to that setting quite a lot. So perhaps not one you know. So where have we got to? Linda. She says, I wonder if Shanika has synesthesia. The music brings colours to her mind. That's a very interesting question, thought, Linda. I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to ask Shanika. But interestingly, I do. And I have always seen music in colours, and which I assumed for a very, very long time was normal, and that's how you would, that's how music would come to you. But when I'm playing and when I'm thinking about music, all the sort of keys have kind of colours and relationships, and it kind of changes colour. It's quite hard to describe. I was trying to describe it to an artist friend of mine, but I definitely do have that experience, and I have it with numbers as well, which also exists sort of in a three-dimensional space for me. But I will ask Shanika about that. She certainly has an amazing instinct for I mean, she says it, but it's just so true, sort of weaving in and out of the music and finding the spaces and saying, there's a space that I can sort of inhabit, and then something else is happening, so she's moving out of the way, And it's great to have someone, when you're using improvisation, to have someone who's got that sensitivity to understand that improvisation isn't just about being in the foreground, it's also about weaving in and out of the texture. Moira, good to hear from you. Macclesfield Singers, that would be great. I hope you do this piece. And as again, I would love to come along and be a part of that if you ever get to that. Bob Wood, great to see you, Bob. I miss our sessions where you play me lots of interesting music from your fantastic record collection, and I always learn something about music that I never knew, or I hear a piece that I've never heard before. And Bob has a fantastic channel, Bob Wood, playing LPs and things you might not have heard. So do check that out. But you have a question, and you say, when writing a piece like this with a jazz ensemble, how much is scored and how much is left to the player's improvisation? Good question. Most of it is scored, as you would have in a big band type score. So most of the brass parts, there's three brass instruments: trumpet, sax and trombone. Most of it is scored, although they do have a couple of sections where they are open, so they solo at certain times. You might have noticed at the end that there's a big chord at the end of the 7 last words from the cross, and you hear the trumpet sort of screaming around, and that's just put in as an indication for the player to do that. There's also a place where the trumpeter improvises. So there are some improvisational points. The very first saxophone thing that's played, it's at the very start, we didn't hear it, is actually a free improvisation. Although what's happened is that I've ended up notating the improvisation that the wonderful Paul Forkas did at the premiere, and then he sort of replayed it. No, someone else, another wonderful saxophone player, Paul Jones, then played that improvisation on the recording. So we've got this funny thing where something started as a true improvisation and then has sort of become scored, but that doesn't matter. The piano part, again, there is a notated piano part, but we expect the pianist to probably do the most improvising of any of the instrumentalists. The bass player, similarly, it's quite clearly scored out, but we might fill the thing in ways if you've got the right players to do that. Same with the drums, there's very accurate takedown of what was played on the recording, but again, depending on, a lot of things can affect this, not least the acoustic and the size of the choir. So you might find the drums has to play sort of less, not just volume wise, but actually less, the rhythm simplified, or just textures less. And that's very in keeping with this piece. So the rhythm section, you would expect piano, bass and drums to be quite a lot of improvisation, and the soloist who has notation throughout for all the songs, but as you can hear from what Shanika's doing, there's quite a lot of times where she's where she's moving away from it and coming back to it and embellishing it. So again, that's exactly exactly what I want to happen with the soloist. Nigel, you're saying that you don't like changing keys when you're writing a piece of music. I do know what you mean. That's my song is Love Unknown. It was originally in F major when I wrote it on here. Things do, of course, change the feel when you transpose them. It's absolutely true, and it isn't the case that they're the same somehow. And it also, particularly with choral pieces, by transposing it, you will take it into a different range for the singers, and therefore the experience will be different. Strangely, what happened with Shanika was we were singing that song in F major, and she's got a break in the voice. It goes beautifully, the belt part of the voice, up to a B natural, and then it changes completely across there, and I thought, well, if I go down a tone, then the apex note of that can be right at the top of her range. So it was sort of grew out of the physics of Shanika's voice. But actually now, it being in E flat, I can't believe it was ever in F. It feels like it found its right key, or Shanika's voice helped us find the right key for it. Now, Susan, you've said, hearing me talk about colours, you wonder whether I dream in colours. How interesting. A non-musical question. I love that. Do I dream in colours? I think I do, yes. Absolutely I do. Doesn't everybody dream in colours? I've always thought that they did, but maybe they don't. Yeah, always in colour. Is that a thing? Maybe you know more about this than I. And Richard, you're saying that you feel pain in colours. Wow, that's quite interesting. I hope that you're not experiencing colour too much right now, being part of this this discussion. I think I've covered all of your questions there. I hope I have. Yeah, a couple of thoughts that occurred to me as we were going through the piece. I remembered when we were going through the presentation that when I began to structure the whole piece, I said that I'd written several movements and it had kind of built up from there, and then I structured the whole thing out from that point. I remember thinking, looking at Mass in Blue and thinking Mass in Blue has a very strong layout of the first three movements, where it goes kind of, it's got this funky tempo in the Kyrie, then it's really quick in the Gloria, and then again this is sort of 1280 feel in the Creed. And it's not until you get to the Sanctus, which is movement 4 in the Mass in Blue, that you get a ballad. And I knew that the My Song is Love Unknown, I wanted that ballad to happen. And so I thought, right, therefore, that movement cannot come earlier than movement 4 in this piece. And at that time, I only had the I Believe music. So it was useful to have that model, that sort of discipline of thinking, right, how can I make sure I keep the energy of this alive, and therefore testing myself in a way to do that very up-tempo movement, which is the I Give You a New Commandment, and for the choir only, a bit like the Gloria in Mass in Blue, and then also that more funky tempo, straight feel tempo in the first movement. Funny thing about that is that, 10 years ago, and certainly 20 years ago, if someone had suggested that I look at a successful model in my own music and kind of bring it across to help me structure a piece, a new piece, I'd have said that I was a fraud, or they were a fraud. Ridiculous. Gosh, I could write many books about the ridiculous things that I said in my youth. But actually, that was the right thing to do, because the long-term structure of a concert work is crucial. If you get too much slow music for too long, you kind of lose the energy of the whole thing. And similarly, if you if it's all too quick, or all in the same keys, if things keep on being in very similar keys or related keys, it can feel like the piece isn't making any journey harmonically. So those things really occupy my mind now in bigger forms, thinking, how do the keys relate from one section to another? And similarly, how's it laid out, slow, fast, ballads, tension, feels? Because for me, I think it's important that I'm following the contours, and the piece has a kind of landscape in terms of that. And as I said, when I listened to the workshop back in February 2018 of this piece, what I found was that coming out of the Seven Last Words from the Cross, which is a very driving rhythmic movement, then I went into Do Not Stand at My Grave, which is now the 8th movement, and that also has quite a set rhythm to it. It just felt like we were missing rubato, and sort of a stillness was required. Hence the insertion of the a cappella movement, which, you know, I think has really balanced the structure of the whole piece. I think I will leave it there. Thank you for your fantastic questions, as always. As I say, very much looking forward to doing this piece again. We're hoping next year it's in Newcastle. We were going to be doing it in Sussex in the autumn, but understandably that has again been postponed for obvious reasons. So I do hope you can catch up with the performance of it eventually. Have a listen to it. It's on the it's downloadable, streamable, it's even purchasable as a CD from Signum Classics. You can even purchase it from the Will Todd web shop with a signature. So think of that, totally unique gift. That's something to think about. Couple of things to tell you about. The 22nd of April, there's a Sky Arts programme. It's Earth Day on 22nd of April, and Sky Arts have got a specially curated programme put together by the actress Janie D. And one of my pieces there from my Songs of Renewal suite is featured in that, sung by the ENO chorus, and I went along and played piano with them for that, which was a fantastic experience. It was so wonderful to be doing live music again. So if you are able to catch that, please do. A bit further ahead, on the 10th of June, Classic FM will be live broadcasting a premiere of a new choral piece of mine from a concert which has been done by the 16 live from Farm Street Church in London, but you can catch it on their Facebook live stream. So have those dates in your diary if you want to hear some of my music. The 14th of May is the final one of these. I know you are all very, very sad. What will you do once a month on a Friday? You will be bereft. So 14th of May, and I'll be talking about working with Investec Opera Holland Park on my family opera, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which was premiered back in 2013. So do join me if you can. Let others know who may be interested. There's details on the Facebook page and also on the Will Todd events on the website. Great, as always, to have you with me. I'll leave you with a little taster of the next session in a month's time. Thanks for joining me. Take care wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Well, I was Alice this morning.